He's the man who knows anything, everything about Illini basketball. Derek Piper from Illini Inquirer, our local Illini basketball insider. And Derek, we'll start with a little top-down view for the Illini. Coming off a Big Ten championship last season, what are your expectations? What do you think the team's expectations are for this season?
I think it's another year when you can expect to be in the mix for a Big Ten title. You look at Indiana, Illinois as the top two teams projected in the league right now, and from a talent perspective, they have as much talent on paper as anybody in the league. Now it's whether those freshmen can step up in a big moment right off the bat when you got Sky Clark, Jaden Epps playing big minutes at point guard right off the bat. You have Terrence Shannon, Matthew Myers, some really talented guys out of the Big 12 now transferring, trying to be the leader and the focal point of this team now. So it's really about how this team can mesh together, but they have a lot of pieces. Coleman Hawkins is thought to be one of the breakout players in the Big Ten, and RJ Melendez has that chance as well. So they got a ton of talent, ton of versatility, a new style of play, and it's going to be fascinating just to see how Brad can mesh it all together, how quickly it clicks, because on paper, and I think long term, it can be a really, really good season and a chance to finally go on that deep tournament run like they've been hoping for.
Let's go into some of the micro things now. You mentioned Coleman Hawkins there. What do you think about his game makes him that candidate to break out in his third year?
We know he's an outstanding defender. He's one of the best defenders in the Big Ten because of his versatility, because of his length, the fact that he can essentially guard 1 through 5. I know he's talked a lot about that throughout the offseason of being able to, with their change in defensive style, being able to even switch on to point guards at sometimes and recover to the paint. We'll see how he guards Zach Edey. We'll see how anybody guards Zach Edey. That's going to be a big test for the Purdue big man. But I think that offensively, throughout his high school career, he shot the three decently well. Now it's trying to come from being a sub 30% three-point shooter in college so far to now upping that to 35 plus from three, doing more off the dribble, more facilitating, because he'll have the ball outside of the three-point arc a lot, trying to pull big men away from the basket and making good passes, making good reads. So having the game slow down too now as a veteran is something that can elevate him to another level.
You mentioned the really impressive freshman class coming in this season. What about it makes it so impressive, and how has the past few years for Illinois impacted the way that they're able to go after these kind of recruits?
It's made a big deal when you have a guy in the NBA like Io making his imprint, and you're recruiting guards and saying, look at the way that we developed him, the way we utilized him, our pace of play, the way we utilize and feature guards offensively, and just the success, knowing that guys want to win. High-level players want to come into college, have a chance to play in Final Fours, have a chance to compete for league titles, so that's certainly made an impact on it. In terms of the class in general, it's the highest-ranked class Illinois has had in more than a decade. You look at Sky Clark, you look at Jaden Epps in the backcourt, two top 50 caliber guards. Both can really, really score it. Sky's a fantastic shooter. Jaden Epps can get downhill. He's really quick off the bounce. And Sky hasn't played a ton of basketball here in the last year and a half coming off the ACL, but if he's able to get some of that burst back, which good news, he showed some of that in that exhibition game against Quincy here recently. Sincere Harris is a two-way type of player, going to be a good defender as time goes on, athletic. And then Ty Rodgers, just a Swiss Army knife, can do everything, can handle, he's tough, he'll rebound, and really excited about him as well.
Well, you mentioned the exhibition game against Quincy. They've got 2 games down technically. They had that secret scrimmage with Kansas. What can you tell us about what happened behind closed doors there?
I know that it was a really good battle between two high-level teams, a lot of talent on both sides. Kansas did lose a number of pieces off their national title team, but still projected in the top 10 yet again for Bill Self. And I know that Illinois' defense bothered them, the way that they were able to press full court, the way that they were able to switch some things and just have their length and athleticism that high-level teams have had here recently. Illinois has been a little shorter and less athletic in the backcourt in particular. Now that's a big change. Terrence Shannon Jr. being able to get downhill, get to the free throw line. I know he played well. Sky Clark, after a little while, got comfortable, made some shots, and made some really good decisions as well. And Matthew Meyer didn't shoot the best, it sounds like, but his defensive versatility definitely stands out. Another guy that can switch all over the place and recover. Unfortunately, the Luke Goody injury, it sounded like Luke was playing really well and making threes in that game, and they'll need some guys to step up and make shots in that type of a role as well now with him out. But Coleman played really well too, matching up with Jalen Wilson, who's going to be an all Big 12 level player. And just in general, defense a highlight, offense still a lot to work through, still trying to find their identity and just have an on-court chemistry for guys that haven't played a ton together.
Speaking of Luke, how do you think that injury and him gone for an indefinite amount of times, it sounds at least like the first half of the season, is going to impact how Illinois plays, and how are they going to try to make up for his loss?
I I think it's going to give a guy like Sincere Harris a chance to show that he can play and give Illinois some minutes. Also, maybe Ty Rodgers plays less on the ball at point guard and maybe more a bit on the wing, and just having more of a role for Ty, who's going to play a lot anyway. Matthew Meyer being able to slot in at the 4. So they have a lot of pieces on that wing that can be interchangeable, that can fill in for Luke. But I think it's just being able to have that three-point shooting, because that is one of the question marks going into this year. Not saying this is going to be a bad three-point shooting team, but Luke was starting to prove himself as being someone they would really trust with the ball in his hands on the perimeter. And without him, you're going to need the freshman to be able to be trustworthy early, because I think that we know that Luke, with his basketball IQ, with the fact that Underwood just trusts him so much, now with him out, you'd think when things maybe go a little haywire early on, when you face some adversity, you would throw him in there and trust that he'd get the job done. Now you're going to need some freshmen to be able to weather that storm and have less mistakes throughout this early portion of the schedule.
Well, it's never going to be easy shooting the 3 when you lose Alfonso Plummer and Trent Frazier in the same offseason, so we'll see how they replace those makes. Looking at the schedule now, the non-conference part has to be one of the tougher non-con schedules in a while for the Illini. You've got the Invitational out in Las Vegas. You draw Syracuse in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. You go and play at MSG against Texas. What do you make of this non-conference schedule, and how do you think Illinois will fare against some of those tough programs?
It's a lot of opportunity to build your resume. That's
right.
First and foremost. Also get tested, be battle tested by the time you get in the thick of Big Ten play and really try to chase that Big Ten title. But for a team that has a lot of new pieces, they're still trying to figure out themselves, particularly offensively with their identity. It's going to be tough to go out there and face a UCLA team that still has Jaime Jaquez, who's been a great player, has gone to the Final Four for them. Tiger Campbell, an experienced point guard for UCLA, will really test Jaden Epps and Sky Clark. And UCLA has one of the top recruiting classes in the country as well, so a lot of young talent for them to first see in Las Vegas. You either get Virginia or Baylor. Baylor's a preseason top 5 team. Virginia's not bad in their own right, top 20. A lot of veterans coming back for them. And just, I think for Illinois is just trying to figure out, can we not make too many mistakes in those type of environments. Now, guys are going to be hyped up for that, and I think Illinois' talent will show. It's just about being consistent enough. Texas, again, this is going to sound like a broken record, a top 10 team in the preseason, a lot of talent, experience at guard, Tyrese Hunter, Marcus Carr. It's going to test Illinois in that backcourt, but fun matchups. Fans always love to see those type of matchups and environments, and when you're getting invited to the Jimmy V Classic at MSG, it means your program has arrived or come back to national relevance. Illinois definitely has.
And I'm sure Matthew Meyer and Dane Danger is going to want to see those Baylor Bears out in Vegas as well. It should be an interesting one to see how that shakes out. Looking at the Big Ten portion of the schedule now, Illinois didn't get a bad draw, I don't think, as far as teams that have to play twice versus teams that have to play once. How difficult do you think the Big Ten as a whole is going to be this year? Because we saw last year, everyone was just beating up on one another.
Yeah, well, I think we'll see that again. You've got a lot of depth in this league, and I think that one thing that's different this year as compared to years past is the top-level team maybe is lacking. I know Indiana's getting a lot of the preseason love, and they're preseason top 10 in the national poll, but this is the first time in 40 years that the Big Ten hasn't had a preseason top 10 team. So a lot of guys left and went to the NBA, a lot of chance for moving parts in terms of the pecking order there in the Big Ten, but that 1 through 7, 1 through 8, I think this will still be a league that gets a ton of teams in the NCAA tournament, and we'll see. I mean, Keegan Murray left for Iowa, but Chris Murray has a chance, his brother, to step up and be a big-time player. Ohio State lost E.J. Liddell, but brought in some transfers, brought in the best recruiting class in the Big Ten. So I like those teams. I think Illinois is going to be up there. I think Indiana as well, and it'll be a great battle as always.
Kofi Cockburn was in that battle for Big Ten Player of the Year last year. Chris Murray, Johnny Davis, we're all in there as well. Do you think Illinois has another player like Kofi who can maybe step up on that conference stage, maybe compete for Conference Player of the Year?
I think Terrence Shannon has a chance. Now, when you look around the league, you're going to have some favorites like Hunter Dickinson, like Trace Jackson Davis, and in terms of how much those teams are going to lean on those big guys, it might be tough for Terrence to put up the same caliber of numbers. But I think that Terrence, in terms of being on a league title contender, the fact that he's going to be the #1 option offensively, he had his best year shooting the 3 last year, 38% from deep. Now he's healthier, able to get to the rim more. And I think that he has a really, really good chance to make first team All Big Ten. Whether he can push for Player of the Year in the league, that could be a tough challenge. But if Illinois wins the league, we saw it last year. Johnny Davis got a lot of credit for Wisconsin, surprisingly being the co-champions. If Illinois is the champions, even outright, maybe that would push Terrence into that conversation.
And really quickly here at the end, looking ahead, we don't want to go past this year's schedule, but in future years with recruiting for the Illini. Can you give us a quick update on, people to look out for, targets to look out for in the class of 2023, even the class of 2024 at this point? I know Illinois has some targets to watch.
Yeah, in 2023, they're doing a great job of just continuing to stockpile talent. Amani Hansberry, the big man out from the East Coast, is very versatile, tough, rugged. He fits along the same lines. He's kind of like a bigger Ty Rodgers, so he's going to sign here in November. Dre Gibbs-Longhorn was a late addition to this class, former Purdue commit, and then ultimately committed to the Illini. Tim Anderson, I know that he's been able to be on quite a heater recruiting-wise, able to get Dre Gibbs-Longhorn as a talented bucket getter. And you look into 2024, obviously, Merez Johnson already on the board. St. Rita, big man, very athletic, great rebounder. And then in terms of looking for other targets, don't look too far because his front court mate right there, James Brown, who's going to he's taking official visits to Michigan State. He's gone to North Carolina. He's going to go to Illinois and then maybe possibly Duke at some point. So he's really the focal point. Noyes Indricitis, shot maker from that school as well. They're really locking in on that Mean Streets program, and St. Rita has a lot of talent. So you don't got to look too far for Brad Underwood and company. All
right, he's Derek Piper. Catch him on every Your Illini Nation pregame show before Illinois basketball games this season, home and away. Derek, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely.